gentlemen, and non-binary friends, to the Long Shot Podcast. Today, we have your two co-hosts, myself, Amber Kenny, how rude of me to introduce myself first, and Sean Conroy.
You know, I can't get over how rude you are sometimes.
Sorry. I'm a bad girl.
Terrible.
How are you? What's going on?
I'm fine. We talked a little. I was a little sick last time we met, which was really only a few days ago at this point, I think. But I never got worse. So,
That's great.
whatever it was went away, which is nice. I was very happy that it didn't develop into anything. And, I feel good. I got a lot done today. I had a good day. I got a lot of shit done today.
Of your 6 or 7 projects?
I'm already taking shit from listeners online.
Really?
Well, yeah. Oh, absolutely. But let me that
you also have a low threshold.
Right. If somebody goes,
what?
So you're working on 7 scripts?
You're like, you piece.
Yes, I am. How dare you? And they're just like, no, I was just
stating a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% true. Not a good way to go through life. But that just reminds me of a thing that happened the other night, which was I started a new class. And one of the people in the class is somebody that I've known for a very long time from UCB in New York from 20 years ago or whatever. Yeah. And just, we have like a mutual admiration society, I would say, like I was her improv teacher 20 years ago, and she always talks about how much she loved my class and whatever. And, I've always been a big fan of her work and whatever. So it's somebody that I really like. And so here she is in my class. And I always start the class because I think this is true we've talked about this before, but this is true in every business, but it's especially true, and maybe not, but feels to me like it's even way more true.
You've talked yourself in and out of it like 3 times, and I don't even know what we're talking about.
It could be a lie. Maybe it's false. I don't know.
Sometimes.
I mean, there's been experiments, but
depends who you talk to.
Yeah. No, that's so much of, and I could have done this better along the way. So much of success in show business, in whatever part of show business, is about relationships with other people.
Hot tip. Every business.
but yes.
I know what you're saying, but relationships are basically how you succeed in any business, and in entertainment, maybe it's I don't know, multiplied or something, but yeah.
I think that's what I'm saying, because if you work for a corporation, not you, because I know you work for a corporation, but I'm saying if one works for a corporation, there is a hierarchy and a roadmap, and where you're headed and what's happening.
Guess who gets promoted?
Right.
I'm serious. Like, it's not supposed to be that way, but
only the people who are great at relationship stuff get promoted at a corporation.
It helps. It
does. I just think it's much more important in this because you don't even know what the fuck you're supposed to do next. Like, it isn't like, oh, I'm gunning for my manager business card. So
I just have to beef up my resume. Like, no, it doesn't, the resume matters like the least amount.
But whatever the case, you and I could go back and forth on this forever.
No,
I think I'm right. You're wrong. You think you're right.
I am agreeing with you.
But the point is, I always start off my first session. I always start off my first session by having everybody, like I go, these are the people that are going to get you jobs down the line. So let's all figure out, like, tell us everything there is to know about you. Find out who you are. Get to know. Yeah.
Must be a long class.
The first session is always at least 2 days.
Brutal.
But yeah. So anyway, so this woman is introducing herself to the class, and she says incredibly nicely, she says, whatever, I can't remember exactly, but like, I took class with Sean 20 years ago in New York, and I still talk about it to this day, about what a great teacher he was, and how I feel like, I say this to people all the time, I feel like he could teach anything to anybody. He could teach you this class, he could teach improv, he could teach you how to fix a tire. Like, she was like effusive in her, which was very nice, and made
a lot to live up to.
Made me incredibly uncomfortable, of course.
Right.
And then it went to the next person, and I don't even remember who it was, but they were like, I first got into comedy, or however it was like, I saw ASCAT, and I saw Sean in ASCAT, and he was amazing. But
were you like, whoa, this wasn't the assignment? Like, you don't need to talk about me.
Well, it just was weird. Like, I didn't know what to do, like, because I definitely had that impulse, but I was like, this is just bizarre. And so then somebody else did something similar to that. So then by the fourth
it makes
person,
me wish I was in that class, and I could have been like, don't know who Sean is, sort of regretting.
Luckily, there was somebody else there to do that, who the fourth person just shat all over me. Like, not like the way you're saying, but was like, I forget the first time I became aware of the magnificence of Sean like, whatever. It was somebody who I had in class before, and so felt comfortable enough to do that. And I was, and it was like, now I'm in this weird fucking thing where it's like, his attitude wasn't really, I'm just having fun. His attitude was like, clearly this is what Sean wants us to do. And I am not going to play that game. I am going to, carve my own path. So it just was like, oh my God. What's happening? So it went through everybody, and some of them I'd never met before, didn't know them, so they didn't have anything to say, which was fine. And I said, at the end of the whole thing, I was like, guys, I really appreciate everything that everybody said. That was so kind. That was very, very nice of you. But luckily, from this day forward, if I teach this class again, which I'm sure I will establish a rule right from the beginning that you are not allowed to tell anyone how you know me or what you think of my work, because it felt to me like, this is what I said, and I don't know if you remember this. It felt to me like that first televised cabinet meeting of the Trump administration, where they went around the table and they all talked about what a great leader he was and what a wonderful, amazing person, and how grateful the country was that he was the president. Do you remember that at all?
I don't, but I believe
it was amazing. It was amazing. And it was clearly a thing that he set up to have all these important people talk about how great he was. And that was the thing. It was televised live. Like, he knew it was going to be on CNN and whatever. And he said, just go around the table and tell everybody how great I am. And that's exactly what almost all of them, I think James Mattis was the only one who didn't do that. They each and every one just stuck their tongues as far as they would go up his orange powdered bunghole into his lower intestine and swirled it around, and then went up and down a few times.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, that is something that happened over the course of this week. The end.
But you said today was a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah. it's funny. You were talking about your morning pages last week, and I've done that. I've had days where I get up and I just read for like a half an hour or whatever. But I still am in that place where I'm like looking at my phone a lot of the time, or looking at the TV or whatever.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Like with my like magical Zen morning pages that I've been so consistent with, it depends on the day. There's days where it's like flowing out of me, and then there's days that I'm like, oh, that took me 45 minutes because I stopped and looked at TikTok every 5 minutes, or like whatever it
but
is.
Even in you saying that, at least you are consistently doing that. Like you're going, this is how I'm going to start the day, and I'm still not able to get to that point. And in fact, it's funny. I found a book that I clearly bought like a year or two ago with the best of intentions, and then forgot that I had. And it's a book that somebody published of like the rituals of famous artists or writers or whatever. And
I thought that was the book that or was that an article that you read that it said like, don't look at your phone for half an hour?
That was a different thing. But this is literally like, this is what, Homer did every morning before he wrote the Odyssey. He woke up, he, didn't look around because he was blind, like all the things that, but it goes through like a bunch of them. And so I still haven't read it, but I forgot I had it. So I'm like, oh, I should just look at that. But anyway, I'm just all over the place. The apartment's a mess. I'm not, sometimes I turn on the news, sometimes I start going through Twitter, whatever. This morning I was like, I have a list of emails I want to send. So I'm just going to get up and do that first thing before I even have breakfast, thinking it would take me 45 minutes, maybe.
Right.
So I made coffee and I started on this list, and I realized that two of the emails I had to send had to do, this is going to really rub some people the wrong way, but had to do with scripts that I wanted to send out. So I had to, or one was a script and one is just a document that's not at script phase yet, but like kind of a outline type thing, whatever. And I wanted to send these out. So as I was going down the list, I would like send out an email, get to the email with the script, go into the script, fix everything I was going to fix in the script, send the email with the script attached. So it ended up, instead of 45 minutes, it took me about 4 hours, but I got through so much stuff because I just,
it wasn't just the email, you were also.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and send it out. And, so anyway, it felt very productive.
Yeah, it sounded like you were in the zone.
And then of course it was like 2 p.m. and I had not had breakfast yet.
And you started losing your mind.
Right.
What do you normally have for breakfast?
It's a good question. It depends.
No, it's a great question.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll have oatmeal with.
That's what I had today.
Peanut butter and banana. That's my oatmeal thing. I know different people put different things in their oatmeal.
Banana. Am I crazy?
I don't like banana flavored things.
Okay.
And I know you could say, right now, hint, hint, guess what bananas taste like? But I'm talking about banana, artificial banana flavoring is one of the most revolting things.
Like I like grapes, but grape flavor. It doesn't taste anything like grapes, and it's gross.
Well, that's incorrect. But yes, I get what you're saying. But
it's like, those are two different flavors.
Right. But yeah, so banana flavoring is disgusting to me, but I like bananas. And so I'll have,
Silly Sally over here.
I'll have your oatmeal, your peanut butter, and your banana, swirl it all together. And that's good because it's very quick as well. That microwavable oatmeal is just get it done right away. And then I'll usually have a glass of milk because, you got to get all the.
That's insane. You drink a glass of milk?
I do.
That's crazy, Sean. I didn't know anyone still did that.
I do.
That is insane.
I like milk. I like milk flavored things too. If something has milk flavoring in it, I'm on. And what I really like to do is put the milk in the glass and put it on the table and leave it there while I make the coffee.
Oh, so it's warm.
It's nice and room temperature by the time I get to it. Yeah.
That's tough stuff.
It's really good.
I had oatmeal today too with peanut butter. But no, I ate a pear on the side. Cool story. I'm new to breakfast. I haven't eaten breakfast in a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
But here's the other part of breakfast for me is that I will also sometimes do full on like bacon and eggs with either black beans or potatoes or a variety of side dishes. Because I like breakfast. Breakfast is my favorite meal. Oatmeal is not my favorite meal, but if I do the eggs and bacon, that makes me pretty happy. But it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of cleaning up. It's takes a bit of a while. So anyway, that's breakfast in my house.
Special occasions.
Yeah. But if there's a special occasion, it usually lasts for like 4 or 5 days, because once I get a dozen eggs, I'm not just going to leave them sitting around. You know what I mean? You got to like get rid of those things. Maybe I'll take 6 of them and put them in a glass of milk and just stir it up.
Well, the reason I ask is I'm new to breakfast. I'm trying to eat breakfast more regularly. And Jeff has always been a breakfast guy, but he eats Raisin Bran with milk. So I'm out. I have to find I have to fend for myself.
I also like that you are part of that segment of society that says milk instead of milk.
And we've done this before.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that the people who refuse to recognize the letter I as what it is.
I'm from California. I'm so sorry.
I'm from California. Yeah. But here's another. Just to talk more, because why not talk more about scripts since I'm in that place. For years I was working on scripts with other people for various TV shows, whatever. And I love doing that because it is a fun collaborative process. It also means that you go through it so much before anybody outside that little circle of people sees it, that you're like, oh, this is exactly where we want it to be. They might have thoughts about it, but you're never like, I just have no idea about
There's
this.
Been a lot of quality control.
Right. Now, in the last couple of years, I've written a number of things just on my own.
And you're like, this might be insane. This might make no sense.
Gotten to the point of like, I am going to send this to people and see what they think. And that's a whole other thing. And so this past week, I sent a script to, I think, 3 or 4 people. I can't remember.
Quentin Tarantino. Martin Scorsese.
D.D. Spielberg, what's up, buddy? You mind reading this? It's a short script. It's a short that I am hoping to direct. I've always wanted to be a director.
Why are you doing quotes?
Because I'm talking. Aren't you supposed to use quotes when someone's speaking? You put it in quotations. So.
Also, you do your quotes touching.
You're supposed to do it like this?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I'm just putting one quote around it.
It's quotes within quotes.
Other quotes.
Yeah.
Also.
No, but you should direct.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying is don't undermine it.
It just feels silly to say that just because it's so
it's a cliche.
Yeah. But anyway, I wrote a script and I was going to send it to a couple people, and I sent it to them. And as soon as I sent it, I immediately was like, these are all the things I have to change that don't make sense, that are absurd, that aren't like.
But you wouldn't have come to that realization until you had sent it. So you had
that's
to.
That's what I was thinking was like, oh, this is the only reason I'm thinking that is because all of a sudden in my brain, it exists outside of my brain.
You're almost thinking of it from someone else's POV.
From the point of view of someone else's brain, I'm going, what am I looking at? And not the idea that has germinated inside my head and then slowly come out. But somebody else looking at it cold, and I'm only able to see that, I guess, after I send it off to somebody. Because what I was going to say is I've done that several times over the last couple of years with scripts where I send out a version and then I'm immediately like, oh no, there's all these things I still need to change in there, you know? Whereas obviously I didn't feel that way before I sent it. So I guess what I'm coming to terms with is that's just part of the process for me is until I send it out to someone, it's still going to need a lot of changes.
Right.
You know?
It needs that step. Hold on one second.
Yeah. Okay, this is the part of the show where Amber pretends that she has other people around her, and she's screaming at them. She's like, "Guys, come on! I'm doing a podcast, guys. Please let me do a podcast."
No, Jeff is cooking. He's the greatest person alive, and I think we have Google Home. It's spying on us. We're the bad guys. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But his kitchen timer alarm was going off in here.
Oh boy.
And so I don't think I wanted to make sure he knew take it off the pan or whatever.
The water is boiling.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that was just an interesting realization. I mean, interesting to me anyway. Who knows how other people feel? Some people might find it interesting. I don't know. Some people are like, I don't care, but
no, I think, but because you just automatically wouldn't get to that step until it's externalized. So you have to.
And the problem, of course, is that
they'll give you notes and you'll be like, I know.
Well, I don't want to be that guy because I've definitely dealt with those people. But in that same vein, I did then go, I'm just going to go back and change it before I even get notes from people. And then if they give me notes, I just have to sit there and go, thank you, as opposed to doing, which drives me fucking crazy when I give people notes on stuff and they're like, I know. I already knew that. Yeah, I know. Then I'm like, why did you send it to me then? Why are you asking me?
Then you should have done that.
Yeah. But the other thing is you can't then, and I actually thought about this time because I was like, I know these guys have not read it yet and I have no expectations of them reading it.
But you could send the updated version.
But I don't, you can't just go by the way, in case you haven't read it yet, here's a new version. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
That's insane.
It makes it seem like it wasn't important the first time that I sent it. But it really was, you know.
Oh, I didn't get that from it. I just thought that it would sort of be overwhelming, and then it's like, so okay, which version am I? Now I'm confused.
But I guess the way I look at it is, if I sent another version, if somebody sent me another version within 6 hours of sending me the first version.
They must have just written the first one in a day.
Yeah, I would be like, what? Or even just why didn't you just wait until you were done? I thought you said you were done. You're not taking the process seriously. Are you going to send me another one tomorrow morning? That's going to make me even less likely to read it if you're just updating it on the regular, you know? Hey, Smudge, what's up?
That's your old friend, Sean.
Not as excited this time. So anyway, and also what was funny about that too, or I don't know if any of that was funny. It doesn't.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that funny. I love milk, but I sent it to. Well, what I realized was the people I sent it to. And I think this is important too. They're all people whose judgment I trust.
Right.
But and also people I have a close enough relationship with that I know that even if they're like, what the fuck is this? They're not going to it's not going to change their opinion of me. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and they would be able to communicate that to you
mm-hmm.
in a way that wasn't soul crushing.
Right. But I'm looking at it more from my point of view of like, what if this person thinks I'm crazy, you know? Right. And like, I already know that's never going to happen with any of these people. Like right. they're or if they do think that, they already thought that this is not going to affect it in any way. Whereas with some other things that I've sent it to people that I knew, but didn't know, like they weren't people who I have a more of a sense of deep connection with, you know? Right. So that was a thing. And then the other thing I did today was I watched my nephew play basketball. So that was kind of funny.
In real life?
No, on a, I don't know what it was, an app or a website or something. Like they were filming his.
You're drinking a glass of milk. And
I'm drinking a glass of milk with banana flavoring in it. But it was just funny because I could watch it on my phone and then I can mirror my phone on my TV. But because it's just a one camera shoot from like way up in the gym, even on the TV, it still is like a tiny image, you know? And then I would like, what I didn't realize until after a while, I did the thing where on your phone, you make the picture bigger. So I was like, oh, there he is. I can see his number and everything. But then the camera, like you can't see what's going on because the camera doesn't follow that. The camera's kind of stationary a lot of the time. So unless they're right in that spot, you can't, you know. So anyway, it was just fun to watch him and also to realize. So he's I think he's a sophomore. Yeah, he's a sophomore in high school. And he's kind of tall, you know, and he's a good basketball player, but he's also so skinny. Like he's just a twig, you know. And watching him do that, I realized that's exactly what I was like when I was a junior in high school and playing football and getting fucking destroyed on a regular basis. Like I was like, it's hilarious to picture in my head these guys who were just beating the shit out of me and me having the physique that he has right now. Like they literally could have picked me up and just snapped me in half, you know? I think I've talked about this before, but the starting quarterback on my high school football team was a guy named Artie McCormick Jr. His father was Artie McCormick Sr., who was a history teacher at my high school, who turned 16 while we were there because he had been born on Leap Day. So he was, you know, he was 16 while we were students there, which was always very funny to us. But Artie, you know, was the quarterback of the football team, and he was a fucking athlete. He was a starting pitcher on the baseball team. Like he was one of those kind of guys. And we used to do a drill. I mean, he was probably 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. And we used to do a drill where one guy would pick the other guy up over his shoulder and carry him the length of the field, 100 yards. You'd run, you know, from one end of the field to the other, and then you'd get to the other end, and then you'd switch, and the other guy would carry that guy back. And so Artie, because he was the starting quarterback, always grabbed me for that drill because he was like, I want the tiniest, skinniest, lightest, easiest person. So...
But then you'd have to carry him.
I would try to lift him up and be like, no, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run myself. Like, but anyway, unfortunately they lost their game, but it was a fun game to see. So that was my day. I did a lot of things.
Nice.
How about you? What have you been up to? What's the latest with you? Checking in with Amber Kenny.
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason we recorded on Saturday in the bright daylight with your vampire tendencies, you just it was a lot for you, and I appreciate that. Was I went to visit my friend's Tim and Melissa and their kids, June and Johnny, in Ventura. They, in the pandemic, moved to upstate New York, bought a house, the whole bit. But they were
Sorry,
back.
are Tim and Melissa the parents of the famous couple Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash?
Yes, yes, they are. That's what they're named after. But they were in town. Tim and I have the same birthday, but he's a year older, so it was his 40th, and
That makes you 39.
Can you believe? Little old me.
I remember you from when you were just a little old 38-year-old.
I know. But yeah, that's really why I had last week off work. Is initially there was supposed to be like a Palm Springs trip celebrating Tim's birthday, and I was like all in, and I requested the time off in like February, and then that didn't pan out. But they're still in town, and I think, well, I know Tim is doing a thing this Friday for his birthday somewhere in LA for like LA friends, but he's staying with his parents in Ventura, which is quite a ways away. And so Jeff and I and Smudgy went to go visit them. And I misunderstood. I thought they were wrapping up a brunch and that we were going to hang out with them after and just like walk on the beach with the dog and the kids and catch up and then leave. But we show up and they're like, we got a table. And we were like, okay. So it was Smudgy's first time at a restaurant. And I think it was the way to do it. It's, I'll go back. It's quite a drive. I mean, it's a little over an hour.
Yeah.
That's quite a drive the Sunday after Thanksgiving. There's just inherent traffic. And so just even getting there, it was like, okay, are we doing this? We're doing it. But we did it. And then again, we showed up and Jeff and I are both sort of frazzled. We're just like looking for a place that we could let Smudgy pee and like park. And
my understanding also is that sometimes he'll get out of the car and just take the biggest shit the size of his entire body. So,
so we were looking for that. And, but yeah, they were like, oh yeah, we got a table on the patio. So we were like, oh, okay. And again, I think it was good. I think if they had said like, let's go to a restaurant with Smudgy, we probably would have been like, that's too much. We can't do it. But like the ignorance is bliss situation of like, well, we're just doing it. Forced us to do it.
You weren't going to turn around and go home because they had gotten a table on the patio.
Right.
You weren't going to go, did you guys ask for the special dog kiss section?
Right. I haven't seen them in a year and a half, but like, see, I wouldn't want to be. So we did it, and there were other dogs on the patio, and there was like, it was fine. It was poker. Fine. Yes, yes. So I was proud of old Smudge, and it was fun hanging out with them. It's wild, like that is the age we are. Not saying that it's old, but
going to restaurants on your own.
Well, I've known Tim like 20 years, and
it's wild that you are the ages you are that you just celebrated the birthday of.
Right. Well, and like the conversations we had, it was all just them talking about their kids and us talking about Smudgy, and I was like, yep, this is where we are. We're not like, I don't know, dumb 19-year-olds anymore.
Johnny was just up at Folsom Prison and did a whole concert up there. It was great.
Well, and it's wild because Johnny is 2, so I basically don't know him. Like the lockdown happened his whole life. I met him once as.
Is he walking? I mean, is he?
Yeah, he's doing good.
Is he able to walk the line?
But yeah, it was so great to see them, and I did, like, I had a little bit of a headache before we left, and then I drove, and then we sat on this patio, and I ordered like fish and chips and a beer, like the most dehydrating meal that you could think of. And then we were like, let's go.
By the way, this is why I always get, when I get fish and chips, I get milk with it.
Horrible. And then we went for a walk on the beach, but the sun wasn't setting, but it was exactly like we were walking towards the beach and the sun was like a flashlight in our eyes. Like it was.
Did Johnny go, oh, that looks like a burning ring of fire?
He did. Mm-hmm. But so like between having a headache to start, the long drive, then the most dehydrating meal of all time, and then like walking directly into sunshine, and I have like no pigment in my eyes, so I'm very sensitive to that. So I felt like I spent the whole walk just blind and squinty, and then also like, is Smudgy okay? There's lots of dogs not on leashes. Like it was kind of chaos.
Those two dogs over there are smoking blunts.
And it was all really fun, but when I got home, I was like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain. Like I spent the entire day like and exhausted, but we did it, and I was proud of us. And it might be all in my head and projecting, but it feels like Smudgy's been good lately. And in my head, he's like, yeah, good restaurants. Like I see dogs not on leashes at the beach. Like I could do anything. Like he's a brave guy now.
You wake up tomorrow morning, the car keys are missing. Jesus Christ, Smudgy.
That would be awesome.
I just want to get something at the drive-thru.
He would. But yeah, I guess that's my big checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: you had a party at your place. You went to this restaurant. How comfortable are you at this point with that kind of interaction with lots of other people?
I like go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Again, at this restaurant, we were on a patio. We were outside, and I think I don't know if I still feel okay eating inside. But then, like, I went to a play inside. Like, I'm full of shit, so I don't know. It truly does feel like arbitrary or like superstition almost at this point.
Right.
Of like what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of the same. I had a meeting. Meeting, coffee, blah, 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 yesterday.
Martin Scorsese, we get it.
I didn't know you were going to be here, Jim Jarmusch. But first of all, I get there and the person that I'm meeting goes, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, you have to have your vaccination status with you when you come here.
And you're like, that's going to be difficult because I burnt it.
Right. I don't know if you're familiar with lasers, but I carved mine up with one. No, I had it on my phone, but then I had to spend like 10 minutes going through all the
Make a folder that's just Vax card.
Right. I should do that. If I knew how to make folders on my phone.
Oh, Sean. An album. I don't mean folder, an album.
But also what was funny was I found it and I put it up on my phone. I put it on the table. And first of all, this is a coffee shop in LA. So prior to this time I had been there, prior to going this time, every time I had been there for the past 97 years, you go up to the thing, you order your stuff, they bring it to your table, or you get it right there, whatever the case. All of a sudden, because of this pandemic, there's just waiter service. I feel like that was a reaction they had to the Comic-Con variant that has started to come out. And I just thought that was like...
How does that make it more safe?
Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. And maybe they were doing that before, but yeah, I just didn't understand. But the waiter came by the table and he was like, oh, you can put that away. I saw it already. And I was like, when did you see it? Like, while it was on my phone before I opened it. So clearly that indicates to me that they're not
taking it super serious.
that it's lip service more than anything else, which whatever, that's doesn't make me crazy, but then I was on the street. We finished the meeting, whatever. I left. I'm walking down the street, walking by somebody at another coffee shop. There's lots of coffee shops in this part of town. I'm walking by somebody at another coffee shop. They go, Sean. And it's, of course, director Jon Favreau. No. No, but it was somebody, it was an improviser that I know. And I was like, holy shit. And it was just cool that he recognized me with my mask on and whatever. And like, but it was somebody I hadn't seen. And so there was like a weird, do we shake hands,
Right.
fist bump, like whatever. And then we're talking and somebody else comes walking by and goes, hey, Sean Conroy. And it's another person from the improv world, but from the New York UCB improv world and not the LA UCB improv world. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, we're all...
They know each other.
Right. And of course they didn't. And so I didn't immediately go, oh, this person is this person and this person is this person and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it felt even more socially awkward than usual to be in the presence of other people. And, you know, on the one hand, I was just glad that I ran into people I knew because it's been so fucking long. But on the other hand, I was like, this definitely takes adjustment. Like it's just weird, you know? And it was funny. The first person left, went off to do whatever he had initially been doing. And the second person, we're talking for a while, whatever. And then I had to go because I had to go back and teach a class. And we're leaving, and she's like, "Do you want a hug?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do that." Which also felt very like
weird
pandemic. Yeah, like it was just like such a conscious, specific decision, you know, and had not done that when we initially saw each other because it takes a minute of like warming up to interaction to even be like, oh yes, this is the person I thought it was, even though we're all wearing masks. And you know, and of course part of that also is like, I guess as I was walking down the street, I didn't necessarily have to have my mask on. I would have been fine walking without my mask, but for whatever reason I had not taken it off. I had been sitting at the table with the mask off in the cafe. The other person left. I went to use the restroom before I was leaving, and I was like, I'm going back further in, walking around, so I'm just going to put my mask on because that's what you're supposed to do. So I did that, and then I just hadn't taken it off by the time I ran into these people on the street. And then when I'm talking to them, I wasn't going to be like, hey, you know, which I think also would have been fine, but I just didn't, you know. Anyway, crazy world we're living in.
It's so weird.
Well, how about this? How about we take a break and then we come back and we do parting shots?
Sounds great.
Okay. Just made me like, I realized as I was talking to you that I wasn't wearing a mask, and we're very close, and so it made me very self-conscious that I should have a mask on. So anyway, this is a segment in the show that we like to call parting shots. So why don't we start today with Amber, parting shots?
Sure. Yeah. I took last week off work, and I mentioned how needed it was and how burnt out I was. I'm back this week, and I'm trying You know how I feel like it's like almost a cliche. Like anytime you go on vacation and you do a lot of walking or you eat a new type of food, you're like, this isn't me. This is my new life. I'm gonna bring this into my regular life, and it doesn't always work out. You go back to old patterns. That's why patterns
Like,
are patterns.
Amber, why are you walking around the office eating grapes all the time? Because
With a
I walk and
baguette.
eat grapes now.
So, but I'm really trying to just to have a better attitude and perspective of like, we're not curing cancer. It is what it is. Things might get missed. I can only do so much. I'm only a human being. And I'm like worthy nonetheless. I am a good person. And that sounds really trite and silly, but that is like a profound thing to actually internalize.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, whatever. That said, I came back on Monday and not my direct boss, but like the head of my new department was like, hey, what are you doing? Like on chat. And I was like, going through emails. Am I supposed to be in a meeting? Like, am I in trouble? What's going on? And he's like, no, nothing. Did you get anything? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? Anyway, later that afternoon, something arrived and it is incredible. So I'm going to do a little show and tell.
Was this like the 27 dresses thing where you were like, is this from my boss? These roses from my boss? And then it turned out it was from Cyclops from X-Men?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not from just my boss. It's from my whole team. But wow. Wow.
That's incredible.
Unreal. It's incredible. I gasped.
Do you know what those like medals? Each of those medals has a thing for you, right? Like what are they?
I don't. They said that it was like the sergeant is what they requested, but yeah, he's just
apparently Smudgy was very important, featured very prominently in the Battle of Waterloo.
Yes.
So
he's my little king. So it when I got it took my breath away, and as cheesy as it sounds, like it feels like I'm seen on this team, like they know me. Because I don't want to sound like an ingrate, but I've definitely received gifts from work that it's like, I know that it's the thought that counts and it's lovely that you got me something, but it's so clear that you don't know who I am even in the slightest. And so it's
7 like, gallons of milk.
Yeah. Well, like at the bank, I would always get like, I guess because I smile a lot, I would always get like a pen with like a fluffy top. And I'm like,
right. Well, that's the Venn diagram is like people who smile and people who like fluffy top pens.
Yeah, like I was like, and I like used it because why not? But I would never in a million years buy that or want it. Anyway, point is, I feel seen, and that is notable. I feel like that goes a long way. So I'm trying again to just be like, okay, I'm in the right place. Everything's fine.
Right.
And it's also not permanent.
By the way, one of my favorite things to do is when I meet people who smile a lot, I like to sneak around and steal the fluffy tops off their pens. You know?
But you know what I'm talking like they think that I'm just like super like girly.
Yeah.
In a way that it's not that I'm not girly. I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like they don't know who I am.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times jobs that I've worked where I'd get pens with like a poison dart attached to the other end.
But that's useful.
True. You just got to be careful when you're chewing on the end of it, you know?
That also reminds me. Sorry, everything I talk about is about Smudgy, but he's my whole world. So Smudgy's favorite.
Before you said this, what are you going to do with the picture?
I don't know. I have it right now, like against the wall by my desk, so I can see it the whole time I'm working. But eventually, I need to hang it up. But it's like, how do I pick?
Right.
Or do I bring it into the office when you go back to the office? I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't bring Smudgy into the office.
No. I could try.
You could. People do that. We always had dogs at where I worked for Mr. Pickles, which was...
Well, you're allergic, so that must have been
not good for me. Yeah.
No, DreamWorks is very clearly and adamantly anti-dog for some reason. But his favorite thing, and it might not be his favorite thing, I can't speak for him, I don't know, but something he does quite often, if he's in like a mood, a feisty mood, if I get up from my desk, he'll jump on my chair, grab a pen, and then just be like so excited that he has my pen. I am going somewhere. There is actually a story.
Sorry, I lost you. You're talking about Jeff now?
I'm talking about Smudgy.
Oh, Smudgy.
But for the longest time, I would like chase him around and be like, no, give it back to me. And he just thought it was a game. Like there was like no way to get it back without fully tackling him or like luring him with another treat. But then it's like encouraging him to do it again because he did get a treat by doing it. So anyway, this week I've channeled my like inner mama bear like anger where I'm just like, no, I'm not even doing it full out because I'm embarrassed. And he looks at me and he's like, oh, and he drops it. Because I think the energy I was giving him before, he thought that it was a game. And the fact that I was like, I'm mad. I don't want you to have that. He dropped it without me doing anything else. And I was like, okay. And then I would pet him and like give him a treat that he dropped it himself. But
you're like, can you give me the pen back? But also you can take a card from Community Chest and just go and collect $200.
Yes. So I don't know. I think he's helping me channel my like anger when it's useful, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. And I think channeling anger is what life is all about, you know? Anyway, I fell into a burning ring of fire. Let's see, parting shots. I don't know. I've been on this group of people that I went to college with since this whole thing started. And for a while we were having a phone call or like a, FaceTime chat every week, which was great. And it's still great. Like now it's mostly just messages back and forth about silly stuff or interesting stuff, or this is what I'm up to or whatever, every day or 2 days or whatever. And there's one guy in the group who I really like, who actually was a fan of this show back when we first started, like big fan of the show.
He's fallen off.
Well, a lot of people, the earth is moving very quickly, and a lot of people have fallen off the face of the earth. No, I think he just got overwhelmed with a lot of stuff in his life. He has lots of kids, and, his kids started getting into sports, and he was going to games and, whatever. But one thing is that he, at least for a while back in the day, was an extremely... I don't mean just an extremely conservative Republican. I mean like a very actively extremely conservative Republican, very involved in going to events and fundraising and politics. And also a big time, I think one of the problems back then for him was that he was a big time, talk radio listener and consumer of right-wing media. And I think he had kind of an epiphany at some point just about the right-wing media aspect of the whole thing. I think it was one of his kids who was like, they were just in the car and his kid was like, why are you listening to this? Like, they're just saying the same horrible things over and over and over. And he kind of was like, yeah, what the fuck am I doing? And he stopped, but it didn't really change his politics
right.
much as it could have, And anyway, somebody brought up something in this group today, and he is by far the most extreme of all those people. Everybody else is, I shouldn't say that, by far the most right wing of all the people that I'm in touch with, or right leaning of all the people that I'm in touch with in that group. And so I think that makes him not want to participate to a certain extent, because there is stuff that comes up on a regular basis that's like, fuck this guy, fuck that guy, what an idiot. I mean,
but that's all just you.
Not even. Anyway, I think it makes him reluctant to participate because
Sure.
I just don't want to hear about that. Like, it's
right.
I think what happened was he decided that because he had been so into it and now he wasn't into it, that none of it mattered anymore. Like, anybody who pays any attention to any of that stuff is wasting their time.
But
it
I
is
sort
not
of
worth
get that in the like healing cycle of like, you don't immediately go to enlightened. I don't know.
No. I'm not saying that, but I think to go, I used to listen to all of this stuff and it was way too much. So now I know that anybody who listens to any of it is a fucking moron for paying attention to any of it, because it's stupid. It's dumb to pay attention to it. That to me is indicative of some kind of like, I don't know, like a zealot's mindset. Like, it's all or nothing about everything, you know? But anyway, for some reason today, somebody said something politically oriented, I don't remember, and he chimed in and said, look, obviously one of the things that somebody said something about, or maybe set somebody off, was the whole thing with the Supreme Court yesterday and whatever. And somebody was talking about gerrymandering, how gerrymandering has become a big issue. And he was like, both sides have gerrymandered forever. Everybody does it. It's part of politics. It
doesn't make it right. Yeah.
And, everything that happens just sets off the right-wing propaganda machine at Fox News, the left-wing propaganda machine at CNN and MSNBC. None of it matters. Like, there's no reason to listen to any of this, whatever. And I just couldn't sit back. And it's the Supreme Court is just going to send this decision-making process about abortion back to the states where it belongs. And I just couldn't refrain from saying anything. And I said, like, whatever, who cares what I said? I just said, if you're saying that both sides are the same right now, that's not the case. Like, there is one side politically right now that is living in a false reality, in a fabricated web of lies. There's another side that's behaving the way politicians have always behaved. Some of it's true, some of it's false. They're doing some good things, they're doing some bad things. But that's not the same. Those two things are not the same. And one of them has gotten drastically worse over time. And I said, whatever, you are allowed to feel however you want to feel, but I'm not going to just sit here and say, you're allowed to say what you want to say, but none of us are allowed to respond to that. So, and he, his response was basically just, yep, that's fine. I'm fine. I think probably I said, like, you're allowed to say whatever you want to say, but you're completely wrong. So, I'm going to whatever. And he was like, yeah, well, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and you're the one who's wrong. So it's fine, whatever. But I guess what I'm driving at is that this is a thing that feels to me like it's just never going to go away. Like, this is going to be how life is forever now, because there has been such a radical split, and there are so many people whose whole agenda is to keep their side angry and hateful all the time. And I'm not saying this guy was angry and hateful, but I'm saying he is responding to that anger and hate and saying, this is how everybody is. So there's just no way to have any discussion about this, which I think is bad, and is part of the reason for driving that anger and hate, is to overwhelm people and make them go, I just don't care anymore. I'm not going to get involved. Right. let these fucking people do whatever they want. I just don't want to be involved, you know? And that scares me because I guess one of the things that's frustrating is I feel like this guy's a smart guy with, in some ways, good values, some that I disagree with, obviously, but he's just going, who gives a shit? Like, yeah, Fox News is lying about everything, but so is everybody else. And that's just not true. You know, it's just not the same. It's not the same thing. Anyway, that's my parting shot.
Your head looks so little. It's very strange. I was thinking about how you wore sunglasses.
Well, black is very slimming.
You wore sunglasses last episode and a mask this episode. It's like you're really distancing yourself.
Next episode, I'm gonna have to bust out those old timey sea helmets. You know the the portholes in them, like the hose that goes up to the surface.
Yes, that's what you need.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my parting shot. So anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we did it.
We did it. Folks, this is a long shot. Feel free to go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and write us a review, and that helps us in the algorithm. Unless it's going to be about my
scripts.
Unless it's going to be about my scripts. And please don't say nice things about me because I don't want to hear them. You know,
you're complicated. It's tough to make you happy.
We'll see you next time on The Long Shot.
Bye-bye.